Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Funtellectual. My name is Sudhanshu Kumar and I'm an AI researcher working at the intersection of technology and society. And the discussion that we are going to today is about the topic, the friction of grace, AI and soul's resistance. So it is going to be a very interesting topic. I hope you will watch it till the end and you will find something very interesting that we are going to discuss today. And it will be interesting, I promise you. So, all right, let's start. So, let's start with this slide and what the slide really says that. The slide says that we live in an age of unprecedented diagnostic power, yet widespread spiritual malaise. Okay, all right. So, to explain this, I would like you to sit with this paradox for a second. Okay, and you can do one more thing. You can go and open a chat GPT and ask a question like this, like, a very very basic question that we all humans really ask. That, yeah, you can go to ChatGPT and ask that question, that why do I feel empty? Okay, and you will find that within 3 seconds you will get a very beautifully structured answer with bullet points, few bullet points, 5, 6, 7, 8 bullet points, with some references to existential philosophy, and maybe it will also provide you some framework with, like any framework like Buddhist psychology or like any psychological principles, right? And it will be in a very clear, elegant, comprehensive and structured format, right? And after reading that, you will read and you will think that, wow, that actually makes sense, that why I feel empty, that actually explains what I am feeling, right? And after that, what will happen? Then will you close the app and you will go back to work and you will still feel very empty, right? The same feeling. That is the paradox. In today's age of AI, in today's generation, we have more answers than any generation in human history. We have all the answers. We have all the answers to all the questions. And due to this, the word's complexity is actually becoming incredibly legible, right? Very easy to understand, right? But the clarity that we are achieving with the help of these chatbots or AI is not actually translating into anything substantial or transformative. No transformation is actually happening at the level of human, right? Because any explanation is not healing. Explanations are not healing, right? I mean, forget about AI. I would just give you a very another example. I mean, just think about the fact that you went to last time and on the internet and you read a very insightful article, or like you watched a video about, like, anxiety, procrastination, productivity, relationship problems, right? So, I mean, motivation, everything related to you. Go and do a lot of stuff, going on internet, watching a YouTube video or like reading an article, right? And after reading that article or watching that video, you probably thought that this is exactly what I needed to hear, right? My problem is solved. Maybe you even like send that article or YouTube video to a friend, that, see, that was actually I was wanted to explore. Okay, yeah, you'll be like really excited. But what happens after that video ends, like after a day or two? Did you actually change your behavior in any way to resolve your relationship problem, or like your procrastination problem or productivity problem, or like any work related problem? Did you actually change your behavior, or like you just momentarily feel better because someone put your words to your experience, and then you went right back to doing the exact same things, right? What happened? You went back to doing exact same things that you were actually doing earlier, right? And that's what the slide is actually pointing to. The explosion of answers today correlates with a growing sense of spiritual anesthesia. We are not actually becoming wiser, we are just becoming numb. Okay, we are becoming numb to every advice, every suggestion that we actually get, because earlier we used to have a lot of suggestions from our peer groups, from our family, and sometimes those suggestions really meant anything. Today, suggestions and advices over the internet are like, you can't even count the number of suggestions you can get in every field, in every point of your life, right? And we feel that we are becoming very wiser, but the fact that when there is some over overproduction of anything, it doesn't make any sense. We are just becoming numb today. All right, so let's move to the next slide, right? What does the next slide say? It says that AI becomes spiritually corrosive precisely when it works too well, you know and the danger is not deception, it's comfort. Okay, so I want to tell you that where the people actually get wrong about AI. They think that danger with AI is that it will lie to us, it will give us false information, it will manipulate us, it will give us bad information or false ideas or anything, right? I mean, but that's not the real problem. The real problem is that AI is too good. I mean, really, it's brilliant at making us feel like we understand things. Let me explain what I mean actually. The core danger lies in AI's ability to remove the productive friction. And productive friction is a very essential element for consciousness and its development. Okay, if we have to understand productive friction, I mean, productive friction is a psychological term for the discomfort you feel when you are genuinely learning something, or like, genuinely changing something, growing, or like, I mean, even if you are going to the gym, it's a kind of productive friction. If you are hustling, it's a productive friction. If you're working on something very deep or something very difficult, I mean, it's a productive friction, right? Any example, I mean, you're sitting with a difficult question without googling the answer. You are like thinking, doing system thinking and all. You are having an uncomfortable conversation with your friend or family or partner, or like you are even wrestling with a moral dilemma that, yeah, which choice should I really make in this process? Is this a good choice? Is this a bad choice? Right? It's a productive friction, right? Being confused, or like staying confused for a certain period of time until the real understanding really emerges, right? What happens with that AI is that AI eliminates all these efforts, right? I mean, if anytime you face any kind of problem, you just go to the AI and ask for the answers, right? And the problem with the AI is that it gives you feeling of understanding without the work of understanding, right? For example, a lot of people today are using AI for mental health, right? Or like asking their personal life problems related to relationships and all, right? And for example, even if you take an example, you just go to ChatGPT and ask the ChatGPT that I'm going through a breakup, I'm very confused, very hurt, very angry, right? Right, and it will give a very good answer. The old way, I mean, what we used to do before ChatGPT, right? Or like AI. I mean, when people used to have a breakup or like some heartbreak, I mean, they will call a friend, right? We used to call a friend, and what happens with the friend? The friend will listen. Maybe you will cry, okay, and you will talk in circles for an hour. I mean, you will talk the same things. How can that person do that to me? That person is not good. That person is very bad. I mean, and eventually, what happens in that long conversation with a friend? That eventually and very slowly you realize and you understand the messiness of your conversation, right? You start to see the patterns at a very subconscious level when you talk about that heartbreak with your friend. You start to see the patterns, right? Right. Okay, and you start to understand your role in what really happened. It's really painful, it takes time, but you are actually working on that, okay, in a very subconscious level, in back of your mind. When you're talking, you're doing a lot of processing, right? But what is actually happening with ChatGPT? When you ask for a relationship advice after a breakup, you ask ChatGPT, why did my relationship fail? Okay, and it will give you 5 reasons perfectly articulated, and you will read it and you will think that that makes sense, right? I mean, that actually happened, and you feel momentarily relieved. Okay, oh yeah, I'm fine, okay now. But nothing inside you actually changed after reading that, okay, because you didn't went to any kind of friction. Because when you call your friend, I mean, sometimes your friend can even say something which is very difficult for you to hear, because it may be against you, but it creates some friction, right? That, yeah, you were bad, that person was not, you were bad, okay. That friction may come. I mean, even you will get a lot of friction in your mind while saying those things, that, yeah, and you will find your loopholes in your faults and your mistakes in the conversation. And the real transformation requires friction. And AI job is to eliminate friction. And that's the problem, right? Let's talk about the problem in a more structured and more way, in a more sophisticated way. What the slide here actually says about, we will go to some, psychological and scientific principles here. It comes with concept one and concept two. So concept one says that uh, it's an Gestalt in framing. It's an Heidegger's term. Heidegger's coined that. It's a term for how technology treats the world as standing reserve. And what's the standing reserve? Resources to be accessed, optimized, and made transparent. AI accelerates this to an extreme. Okay, so we are getting somewhat philosophical, but stay with me because this is very important and we'll enjoy it. Martin Heidegger was a German philosopher, first of all, okay, and he coined the term Gestalt, right, which translates to inframing. It's his way of describing the essence of modern technology, right? And what's the essence in this is actually, and the essence in this, you could understand that he wants to convert to the idea that technology makes you see everything as a resource to be optimized, okay? Not a mystery to be respected, not a question to be sat with, but a problem to be solved. Okay, for example, let's take an example actually. One morning, what happens that you feel very anxious. You wake up, you feel very anxious, right? What's a non-technological response here? You sit with anxiety, okay? It usually happens in our daily life, right? I mean, sometimes some days are not really good, some days are like really bad, okay? But what really happens? You feel very any kind of very difficult feeling you are going through. So what will happen when you first wake up in the morning? If you're feeling very anxious, you will sit with that anxiety. You will feel it in your body that yeah, I'm very anxious. You will breathe, and sometimes you will also wonder that what is actually trying to tell you. You try to discover something inside you. Maybe some people will journal, maybe some people will go for a walk, and in that process it's not necessary that anxiety will go away, but you actually develop a relationship with anxiety, right? Okay, you develop a relationship with anxiety where you try to manage and try to understand that when it really comes, when it really goes, okay, when you really sit with it, when you really understand that yeah, you are going through that process of anxiety. What's the technological response to this? You will Google, you will go to the Google and you will read an article how to get rid of anxiety. Maybe you will download even a meditation app. You will take a supplement. You treat the anxiety as a technical problem with a technical solution. Okay, so you will try to find the solution. You will not try to understand the problem. Actually, you will just try to find the solution. That's a technological response, and that creates a very situation. And in this situation, what is happening is that AI is actually taking this to extreme. It makes every ambiguity resolvable and every tension manageable. That's what AI is actually doing today. I mean, it is giving solution to all the problems. Every problem has a solution today, which sounds great, right? Okay, but there is a problem actually. What vanishes, I mean, what ends in this process is that resistance that consciousness needs to love. And we have seen that in examples, I mean, in contemplative traditions in India, like Buddhism or Jainism, or like even in Stoicism, or like Christian mysticism. All these religions or these traditions have understand that something that AI haven't understand it. Okay. And the fundamental principle here is that growth happens not through ease but through resistance. I mean, even in Stoicism, I mean, you have to. I mean, all the Stoic philosophers say that you have to embrace the pain, you have to embrace the resistance, you have to embrace the tension, and that is the work of integration, right? Think about going to the gym. Think about going for any fitness class, right? You can't build muscle by avoiding resistance. You can't say that okay, I will not lift weight and my muscles will grow. No, you build muscle through resistance. And same thing is with the consciousness. When you remove resistance, you don't get any kind of growth. You get atrophy, right? So that's the case. I mean, we it becomes very difficult to understand that how this AI is actually creating an obstruction in that productive friction. Okay, so how about the knowledge realization gap here? The knowledge realization gap in this context, that I mean, the slide here says that talks about the two things: intellectual understanding, where it says that the brain produces a metacognitive feeling of epistemic gain, and AI is optimized through this feeling. And the second is that realization, sanna, an embodied transformation through lived encounter. This is neurological distant. Okay, so we have to understand this is something very like something from Buddhist tradition and all. So the slide is like very it is just trying to distinguish between two completely different kinds of knowing. Okay, it is slightly very complex, but yeah, let be here for some time. The first type is intellectual understanding. Okay, this is when Panati says that this is when your brain goes aha. Sometimes you get kind of moments where you say that I get it now. That's a very satisfying click, right? I mean, whenever we experience that, yeah, now I get it. It's a kind of sense of closure. It gives you a sense of closure for a problem that you were trying to solve from a very long time. Even neuroscientists have called this a metacognitive feeling of epistemic gain. I mean, what is actually happening is that basically your brain rewards you with a little bit of dopamine for understanding something, right? I mean, it happens when you solve a very simple math problem, or like you come up with a solution which you were like struggling from a very long time, right? And what is actually happening today is that AI is optimized to produce this feeling. I mean, every time it will give you more dopamine. I mean, when you're scrolling reels on Instagram, I mean, what's really happening that you're getting a dopamine hit regularly, right? The second type is that realization. This is when something changes at the level of your nervous system. In this case, your body knows it. I mean, it reflects in your behavior. You don't just understand the concept, you really embody that concept. And this is neurologically distinct from the sensation of understanding. Let's take a real example. You read a book about mindfulness, okay, or like meditation, or like any some sort of a spiritual book, right? That book explains you that you should be in present. Okay, it talks about you being in present. You should be non-judgmental. You should be aware of your thoughts, right? These kind of spiritual stuff that we encounter in a lot of books, right? And you should be aware of thoughts in a way that you should not be controlled from your thoughts. You should be free from your thoughts, right? I mean, you understand this intellectually, and you also think that this makes sense, right? I should be more mindful. Okay, I mean, it's a very obvious thing whenever we listen to these kind of stuff that, yeah, we should be in present. It's a very obvious thing that what's the point of thinking about the past, which is not going to come back, and thinking about the future, which is yet to happen. We have no control over the future or the past. And we should live in the present. This is a very obvious thing. And when we listen to this obvious thing, I mean, it makes sense. But, and we know that. But what happens when you go to a situation, for example, someone cuts you off in the traffic, right? You will still rage. Right, I mean, you feel so much angry just because that someone's cut you off in the traffic, because the intellectual understanding is not the same as embodied realization. Okay, even though you have understand that there is no point in getting angry over the fact that someone has cut you off in the traffic and went ahead. It's the past, right? But still you will feel rage, right? Because you have not embodied that realization. Another example, a very simple example: you go to YouTube and you watch a video about stoicism, right? This video will explain you that you should only focus on what you can control, and accept what you can't, right? And maybe you will think that, wow, that's brilliant, okay, and I'm going to do that. But the next time your boss or your partner or your friend criticizes you, you will still spend a lot of time ruminating over that thought, that why that person said that to me, right? Why, right? Okay, so because watching a video gave you an intellectual understanding, not direct realization in any way. Because direct realization requires practice, it requires repetition, it requires failure, it requires sitting with the discomfort for a long time, years of embodied experience, right? But AI tries to give a shortcut to all of that. It gives you the feeling of knowing, and that feeling of knowing comes without the reality of transformation. And that's the problem, actually. What's the diagnosis 3 talks about? The diagnosis 3 talks about it talks about another thinker, which comes with Levinas. And Levinas' core insight is that true ethics emerges only in face-to-face encounter with an irreducible other who makes a claim on you, right? So here we are actually getting into something very important. Okay, so here we are talking about Emmanuel Levinas, and he was a 20th century philosopher, and he argued that true ethics doesn't come from abstract principles or rules. It comes from face to face interaction and encounter with another human being who makes a claim on you. Okay, this is very complex. What does it actually mean, that the statement by Levinas? It means that when you are standing in front of another person, looking into their eyes, seeing their pain, their need, their vulnerability, you feel responsible. Okay, not because someone just told you that, yeah, you should feel responsible. Not because it's very logical, but because their existence claims on you. I will explain that. Okay, and that claim is very uncomfortable. Sometimes it's very asymmetrical. It demands something from you that you might not want to give you. Okay, I will give you an example here. Okay, for example, you see a homeless person on the street. Okay, you see a beggar on the street. If you look them into the face, or make eye contact, or see them as a full human being, you will feel something, right? A kind of discomfort, a kind of responsibility, maybe a guilt, maybe some compassion, but you feel claimed, right? And that's why most of us look away. We just reduce them to a category, right? And we just reduce them that that person is a beggar or a homeless person. We we don't see them as an irreducible individual. Okay, that's interesting, right? Because that person claim has a claim on you, right? Now imagine that you go home and you ask the chat gpt about this question, that why there is homelessness, why there are beggars on the street, what should I do about it? And chat gpt will give you a very beautiful analysis. It will talk about economic factors, policy failures, government corruptions, and five things that you can do to help the homeless people, right? Okay, you will read it, you will feel very informed. You might even feel like that, yeah, you are a very good person and you are caring about the others, you are caring about the homeless people, right? But nothing inside you actually has been claimed here, right? Because AI creates an epistemic sanctuary. It's just a risk-free space. There is no risk here. It is a risk-free space to explore moral questions without any genuine or asymmetrical responsibility that is required for the transformation. You get to think about ethics without actually being confronted by the face of the other, and that's very comfortable. But that comfort is actually the opposite of transformation, right? So here, what's the resulting condition? Epistemic bypass. Okay. Using spiritual ideas and frameworks provided by AI to understand suffering from a safe distance, avoiding the proximity and vulnerability required for genuine change. Okay. So now we are going to the diagnosis part. Okay. So epistemic bias bypass, if you have to understand, is that when you use ideas about transformation to avoid actual transformation. Okay. It's just spiritual bypassing, but very intellectual in a sense. Okay, and here the slide actually references to the Martin Buber's distinction between I, thou, and I, it. Okay, so what is I, thou? I, thou is like you address the other as singular, irreducible being who can claim you. This is the mode of genuine human encounter. Okay, and what is I, it? You know the other through properties and attributes. You reduce them to data, and this is the structural mode of AI. Some real life example. What is I, thou mode? Okay, you're in a fight with a partner. Okay, so in I, thou mode, you sit across with them, you see that they are hurt, you feel your own defensiveness, you are vulnerable, and when you're talking with your partner, the conversation is very messy, it's very uncomfortable, it's very unpredictable. You don't know what the partner will say, right? But something real is happening, right? Something very real is happening in this process. You understand when you're talking with a person, and it's very unpredictable, very uncomfortable at, because sometimes people say anything, you don't expect that, okay, how can that person say that? I mean, but something really is happening, right? What's happening in I, it mode? In I, it mode, you are going to the AI, and you're saying that my partner is upset because I forgot the anniversary, the marriage anniversary. What should I say? AI will give you a script and you will memorize it, you will deliver it, and you will go to the partner and say the same things, and your partner will feel like that you are reading something from a card, because you are reading from a card, right? Right, so that's the case. The danger of empathetic AI is that it offers the sensation of being met without the reality of being claimed. Okay, the comfort is genuine. I mean, the transformation seems to be very illusionary, but the comfort here is very genuine. You feel understood by the AI in that process, but you are not actually changed by it, because transformation requires vulnerability. When you grow in a relationship, you grow in a relationship when you become vulnerable, when you really show your vulnerable parts to your near and dear ones, then only that relationship becomes stronger, right? And the fact is that you can't be vulnerable with something that has no interiority, no needs, no capacity to be hurt. Can you hurt AI? Can you really say something to the AI that AI will get hurt and it will not respond you back? That how can you say that to me? I'm not going to respond. Okay, I mean, I'm taking you out of the subscription. You cannot access my premium version. Can AI say that thing? Okay, it's not possible. Because you can't be vulnerable with someone who has no feelings, no need, or not any capacity to be hurt. You can't hurt AI. You can only be, it is only possible with a real person. That that even you, because both of you have the capacity to get hurt, because both you have feelings, right? You can hurt someone or you can get hurt by someone. That's not the case with AI, actually. Okay, so here the logic of frictionless spiritual anesthesia and epistemic bias. Okay, so there are three things here: the logic of frictionless, the knowledge realization gap, and the ethical sanctuary. Right? We discussed all these things. So let put it all together. All these things that we have discussed. AI is inherent drive for frictionless optimization. Right? We have understood this in the past, that right. And here it is saying the same thing when we are talking about the spiritual anesthesia and epistemic bias, that AI's inherent drive for frictionless optimization delivers the feeling of understanding without embodied change in a risk-free environment that makes true ethical encounter impossible. Correct? That's the diagnosis actually. You end up spiritually anesthetized in this process when you're talking with AI. You have all the right ideas. You can talk about mindfulness, you can talk about compassion, you can talk about authenticity, meaning of life, how life evolved, everything, right? But in all this process, when you're having conversation with AI, nothing inside is actually changing, because you are just given the comfort without any confrontation. You just have given explanations without any encounters. You just have given a sensation that you are growing without actually growing, and without any reality of growth. And in this process, what will happen, that with time you will become numb, right? And that's why you can see that today, that people, especially Gen Zs who are using AI a lot, they are becoming numb, right? They are not feeling anything, because they are actually becoming like unable to make a real difference between real understanding and simulated understanding. And a lot of people in young generation are actually feeling a spiritual anesthesia, right? And you could see that a lot of people on Instagram or YouTube are becoming famous, right? Becoming like very famous among young population, who are talking about spirituality and everything. But the fact is that spirituality is a process which takes a long time. It takes your life. I mean, it comes over a long period of time. When you go through different phases of life, then you come with some lessons or some understanding about what life is actually. But today 25-year people are like feeling enlightened, because they know everything, right? So this is something very concerning, but this is how it is. And we are not actually trying to give some judgment, but we are just trying to understand what is really happening. So what's the prescription here? The prescription is reclaiming what cannot be delegated. Okay. So the slide here says that we must fiercely protect three things, right? The discomfort of truth telling, the vulnerability of love, and the responsibility of moral choice. Okay. So what we have to really do about this today, in this process, in the age of AI? The slide here says that the problem is not automation, but delegating what is core to the human spiritual development. And it is basically talking about the three things in the slide. The first is the discomfort of truth telling. And that is the what is truth telling here is actually that it is the work of non-defensive self confrontation. For example, I have to give example, right? So you realize that you are actually a bad friend. Okay, you are a very bad friend. You are very selfish. You are very self-centered. You are always unavailable, and always taking more from your friend rather than giving. In terms of, like, you are taking more and not giving more. Okay, you are giving very less. AI can help you understand why you have been this way, by saying your childhood patterns, by telling that you have attachment issues, by telling that you have a lot of stress. Okay, it can give you explanation for that. But AI cannot do the actual work of sitting with you, understanding the shame behind it, that why you're feeling that shame, that you are not able to give that kind of time or attention to your friend that you are getting in return. Or it cannot even help you call your friend, or just saying that, yeah, just help you saying the thing that, yeah, you can call to a friend and say that, bro, listen, I know that I'm a very shitty friend and I'm very sorry for that. Okay. And then by having that conversation, you can really change your behavior, because it is a very discomfortable process, right? It creates a lot of discomfort, and discomfort will only be experienced by you. That AI is not going to feel any discomfort. It is just giving you advice. You have to go through that discomfort. Even though AI can give you any suggestion, the discomfort is your process only, right? The discomfort of truth telling. What's second? The vulnerability of love. This is actually the real. This is reality. I mean, when you are being affected by somebody else need. Okay, here, if I have to take example, I would say that, yeah, imagine your friend is going through a crisis, and you get a call from him or her at 2 a.m., right? AI can give you an advice on what to say, right? Okay, that if you tell the reason that my friend is crying for this reason, AI can give you a lot of advice, right? but it cannot feel the pull of their need, right? It cannot feel the pull, that problem actually, the inconvenience, and the discomfort of not having the right words. I mean, the vulnerability of just sitting with them in their pain, right? We see a lot of problems like this. For example, I remember a time when my friend called me in midnight and shared this news to me that he has lost his father, right? At that point of time, if you are facing that kind of problem, what you will say, right? I mean, even though you can go to AI and ask that, what should I say to a situation where my friend is sharing that his father is no more in this world? Huh? Okay. And do you really think that your friend need any kind of statement that is coming from AI, right? It doesn't need any kind of statement, right? I mean, that person doesn't need any kind of you. I mean, the person just want to be with you in his or her pain, right? That's simple, right? That's very simple. I mean, any word cannot, any statement that is coming from AI or you cannot actually comfort that person. What you will say, okay, yeah, I'm, but just saying the word that I'm with you in that vulnerable moment will help a lot, right? And that is yours. That is your words to say that, yeah, I'm with you. Okay. So that's the case. Third is the responsibility of moral choice. This is bearing the weight of your decisions. I mean, if any decision you are taking, I mean, you have to put the weight of the decision on your. For example, you are offered a job and that job pays more but requires you to do work you find ethically questionable. Like you are in an office and you have an option to take a bribe for doing an by passing something illegal, which is not ethical in a sense, right? So what happens in this case? That AI can give you frameworks for thinking about their decisions. Okay, it can take utilitarian calculus, right? Virtue ethics, or like Kantian duty. I mean, right? I mean, Rawls' theory of justice. These kind of things, right? But it cannot bear the weight of that choice, right? It cannot take the weight which comes from taking that choice, right? The doubt which comes from mind, the second guessing, the moral residue, right? That will live in your body, that will live in inside you, in your body, regardless of whatever you choose, right? That's really yours, and we have to claim these things, right? Until unless we claim these things, we are not going to make AI more humane. So let's move to the end. Okay. So what spiritual reclamation requires? Okay. So the slide says that it requires three things: prioritize questions over answers, commit to embodied practice, and revalue relational frictions. Okay. So and this actually also has a very very good statement that we are vessels, not fortresses, and in that permeability is where actually love moves. Okay. So, I mean, this presentation is not about saying that you should not actually use AI or like avoid AI in every sense. It doesn't mean that. I mean, it is not saying that thing. It is just saying the fact that in a case that, I mean, uh, you have to be like really practical. I mean, if you want to avoid spiritual anesthesia, which is happening because of AI, you have to do three things that has been shown in the slide. You have to prioritize questions over answers, you have to commit to embodied practice, and you have to revalue the relation frictions, right? Let's in the end, let's end with discussing it something detailed. So what does it mean to prioritize questions over answers? It just mean that you have to sit with the question to let it transform you, right? If you are facing any type of question in your life, you have to sit with that question rather than just immediately seeking solution. I mean, what's the solution to the problem? And you are immediately going to the AI. Let's sit with the question for a while and try to understand. Okay. So, for example, if you are struggling with a question like that, what is my purpose in life, right? So instead of googling it and going on that, okay, what should I do? What is my purpose? Sit with this question. I mean, that's a very wonderful question that humanity has been struggling with for years, right? How can you just delegate this question to the AI? Okay, sit with this question for a week, a month, let it work on you, right? Let this question really change you, shape you. Let different answers emerge at different times in your life, right? The question is itself the solution. Question itself is the answer. The question itself is the teacher here. Commit to embodied practice, right? Spiritual developments happen through doing meditation, service, art, right? These kind of stuff. Okay, I mean, the body knows what is real. Simple. It's simple as that. I mean, if you want to be more compassionate, instead of reading novels, or like books, or like guides about compassion, or like asking AI how to be compassionate, just go and volunteer for a homeless shelter. I mean, people, old age people, right? Go to an orphanage just once a week, right? Just for a certain period of time, and you will embody that practice, and you will learn compassion in a way your mind never could, right? Without going to these places, or like without doing these kind of things, like meditation or service, or like follow any art, or like following art, you cannot say that, yeah, that practice of consciousness will come inside you. That is really embodied practice. Third is that we have to revalue relational friction. The messiness, or like the struggle of human relationships, are not something bug, but it's a feature that makes us transformative. I mean, we transform in our lives with the help of relationships. So every time there's a friend of yours who frustrates you, and who nags you, who roasts you, or like a friend who is always late, doesn't come on time, or a friend who interrupt you while conversation, or like don't listen to you. Instead of just ending that friendship, or saying that the vibe doesn't matches here, okay, I don't like your vibe, okay, or like asking the AI that how to deal with the difficult people, stay in that friendship for a while, work through it, let it stand off your ages, okay. That friction is going to make you more patient, it's going to make you more tolerant, it's going to make you more human, right? This is the process. I mean, whenever you were like, okay, this the vibe with this person is not matching, okay, and I'm like signing off, that doesn't work. I mean, human relationship doesn't work in that way. So that's the case here. Finally, in the last, the choice is not about the tool but the task. Very interesting. And very, that's the final choice. So the slide here say that AI will not determine the fate of human spirituality, we will. The work of conscience, the risk of love, the sitting with of difficult truth, these are ours alone, okay. So the choice simply is not about the task, not the tool, but a task actually. AI will not determine the fate of human spirituality anyway, right? It will not decide in what direction the human spiritual processes will move. We will, and it's up to us actually, that how we can use it to escape the discomfort, or or we can use it as servant. I mean, it's up to us. I mean, it's just a tool, right? And it's simple as that AI cannot walk the path that is between truth and love for us. That journey remains stubbornly and beautifully human. At the end of this, we have to decide. It's very simple in that way. So this was this presentation on the topic that we have chosen, the friction of grace, and I think you liked it. So let me know what you think. Does this really fit with your experience that you are facing with AI in your daily life? Or like you feel like, is it if it is very helpful to someone, send it to someone. And because we need to understand the difference between information and transformation today. All right, so as always, I appreciate your attention and thank you for listening. You can subscribe to my channel for more of these kind of videos. It was a very long video I have made today, and I hope that I will come with some other kind of videos which are long in explanation. Or let me give you your review in the comments that what kind of video you will like, a long form video or like a short form video. This was really an experiment in that process. Thank you.